The book of Ezra account shows how when Cyrus proclaimed throughout the world, Jews who were scattered throughout the nations of that day began to come back to Israel. In this verse we read 1,254 Jews went from Elam back to Judah. It would be expected that many more Jews remained in those countries, including Iran, as they took root and established relationship and commerce. Just to provide a very brief history, it was King David who gathered the construction material for Jerusalem temple, and his son King Solomon originally constructed it about 964 BC. As mentioned before, when the temple was destroyed by Babylonians, the nobilities of Israel were exiled to Babylon. Then Cyrus captured Babylon and allowed them to go back from Babylon to Jerusalem to rebuild their temple, to resume worship and sacrifice there. This passage in the book of Ezra shows although King Cyrus and Darius were set their hearts to allow the people to go back to their motherland and rebuild their temple, the enemies were active trying to neutralize this plan. This continued even to the time of Artaxerxes. Both the book of Nehemiah and the book of Ezra indicate that efforts to rebuild Jerusalem faced opposition from various groups. Even from the beginning, there were those who took steps to block this effort. This was done both through putting fear in the hearts of those that wanted to go and also by enticing officials to frustrate their plan. This indicates with all obstacles, the temple was completed for the second time in 516 BC, as indicated here in the 6th year of the reign of Darius, who reigned from 522 BC to 486 BC. The Second Temple period is from 516 BC to 70 AD. In this passage, it indicates that kings of Persia were supportive to build the Jewish temple in Jerusalem as well as the walls around the city. That is up to this point in history. The book of Ezra was completed during the reign of Artaxerxes, which was between 465 to 424 BC. Nehemiah was cupbearer to the king Artaxerxes. From history we know that Artaxerxes ruled from 464 to 424 BC. Nehemiah chapter 2 verse 1 points to the 20th year of his reign, which would be 445 BC. And during this time, Nehemiah requested the king to assist in rebuilding Jerusalem by providing leather so he gets support and building material. The biblical record indicates that the king granted Nehemiah's wish. However, the efforts to block rebuilding of Jerusalem walls continued through the reign of kings from Cyrus to Artaxerxes. This passage indicates how the enemies appealed to Artaxerxes by causing him to fear that he would lose income from taxes if Jerusalem is rebuilt. They encouraged the king to search the archives to verify that historically Jerusalem was a rebellious city, causing trouble for the kings before, and this was the reason that it was destroyed in the past. Their logic was very clever, and it was appealing, yet didn't consider the hand of the Lord, being sovereign in all their affair. It led the kings to believe in a lie, because, as shown before, based on the Bible, it was God who allowed Israel's enemy, Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon, to come to Jerusalem and send the Jews to exile for 70 years. But seems like again and again there were those who opposed efforts to rebuild the temple and enticed Artaxerxes to order stop the work until further notice. History tells us that Artaxerxes ended his reign in 424 BC, and Alexander was a new world ruler in 330 BC, which is less than 100 years after Artaxerxes. So in less than a century, the great world-dominating Persian kingdom went under supremacy of a foreign rule. Some 220 years had gone by after Cyrus fulfilling the desires of God. By the time Artaxerxes V came to the scene, Iran was no longer in tune with the desires of Jehovah God. Here is a clear prophecy to the short rise and fall of Alexander, who started his war campaign in 330 BC, and 7 years later ended by his death, while ruling over the world of that day at the age of only 33. After the death of Alexander, his vast empire was divided among 4 of his generals, just as the Bible had foretold in Daniel chapter 11 verse 4. And the details are: the first general, Cassandra, who took over Greece and Macedonia; Ptolemy, who ruled over Palestine and Egypt; Lysimachus, over Asia Minor and Thrace; Seleucus, over Mesopotamia and Syria.